Hello, ERBC families. I am glad that you're here for one more devotional today. We'll be reminded today about how to preach the gospel and why it is important that we talk to people about it. I think nowadays we need to be very mindful about what is happening around our communities, around the world. And I think, therefore, because there's so much sadness and maybe a little bit of difficult times, I think it's important that we bring hope through the gospel. So thinking about the verse that I'm going to be reading reminds me that it's a principle to keep every day in our conversations with our neighbors, our conversations with family and friends that don't know Christ Jesus, in conversations even with our co-workers about who Christ Jesus is and that he is our hope. I will be reading from Romans 10, verse 14 to 17, and it says, "How then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring the good news. But not all of the Israelites accepted the good news. For Isaiah says, Lord, who has believed our message? Consequently, faith comes from hearing the message, and the message is heard through the word about Christ." It kind of reminds me of that we have all have been called to preach the gospel to people, and sometimes we forget about that because we're busy, because life is life happens. But as ambassadors of Christ Jesus and his kingdom, we should all keep in mind that we have been fitted with the sandals of the gospel to bring the hope and salvation to people around us. And my prayer is that together we can preach the gospel to people. There's so many people out there who need it. There's so many people out there suffering. There's so many people, not just here around us, but in the world, that need a prayer. It's very inspiring to me. Just let me give you a quick example how in Afghanistan, there's missionaries right now that are trying to survive and that are risking their lives to bring the gospel to others. And my prayer is that we can pray for countries right now who are not stable countries that do need God's presence, countries that are suffering, and for our own communities here in our nation, that we can be God's vessels and instruments of his kingdom to bring the gospel. And I often say it in my devotionals. It's just a simple question in one conversation, as asking somebody, how can I pray for you? God is real. And as the verse says it right here, right? But not all the Israelites accepted the good news. Not everybody will accept the message. Not everybody will recognize that Jesus is Christ. But our mission is to tell them about God, to present the gospel and the Bible to them. It is up to them if they're going to say yes to Christ Jesus or not. So don't get discouraged if somebody once says, no, I'm ready, I'm done, I have heard that before. We just have to pray for them. But I think it's a great reminder today that our mission on earth is preaching the gospel to as many people as we can. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that together we can reach out more and see what people around us need and how we can bring the gospel to them in a creative way, and how we can set the example that Christ Jesus is real. Let's bring the hope that people are looking for. Until next time, bye-bye, church.